Welcome back to Monday Night Lights. Tim Hoffmeister alongside Lewis Schaefer. It's been a while. We're back into our normal form as Lewis shows his USA key jersey.
Yep, Eruzione. I figured with the weekend, with 4th of July weekend coming up, I figured I'd get it in now.
Yeah, I'm repping Taney Baseball. You know, the team from Pennsylvania or from the East that represented Philadelphia in the Lily World Series with Monet Davis.
Davis, yep.
Not really American, but I'm going local, not national. All right, we're going to start off our show tonight. Really haven't I guess it's been like a week off or maybe a little more than a week because it's been tough. It's not like school where you go to class for 3 hours a day and then you can do whatever you want. We actually have to work and get money. It sucks. We're growing up. But we're going to start off with the finals, both NHL and NBA, and then we'll talk the NBA draft a little later. First, we'll start off with the NHL finals. When we talked about it last time, we really were both hoping for Game 7 at Jose in 6, though. It turned out to go the other way, which we're not very happy about. The Pittsburgh Penguins win in 6, and I mean, really, you can say what you want about the series, but it really came down to Pittsburgh just being much quicker and San Jose really being much older.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you take into account the young defense that Pittsburgh had. I know a lot of people, kind of had them for dead at the end of last year. You know, they don't have a defense in front of at the time Fleury. They're trying to get younger around Crosby. And Malkin, how well will it work? And evidently, it worked just fine. But you're right. I mean, the youth on defense and the quickness that they had, adding Phil Kessel in the offseason and ultimately adding Carl Hagelin at the deadline, which hurt me so much to see him do well as a former Ranger. But I mean, they didn't make, with the exception of Kessel in the offseason, they didn't make that splashy move. As much as it hurts me to say, because it's freaking Pittsburgh, they pushed the right buttons and they got their team to where it ultimately ended up getting, even though I wish the Sharks would have won.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And you look at where Pittsburgh was this season, they really couldn't score, and everyone was thinking, well, was the Kessel move the wrong move? Defense, they weren't that great. They ended up firing their head coach halfway through the season. So you're thinking it's just not that year by Pittsburgh. Maybe they freaked out by firing Shiro as their GM and moving on from what's the coach's name?
Oh, I can't think of it.
Whatever. But you think they're moving on from them when they've had such great success, and you're thinking, what are they going to do now? And then it looked like midway through the season, they freaked out too much, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But then all of a sudden they turned it around, and you look at a lot of things that changed it for them. Personally, I have to say, even though it pains you, it was definitely getting Carl Hagelin.
Yeah, big time.
Because when I look at them, when I would obviously see them a lot playing the Flyers, they were quick. You knew they were quick, but you didn't. It almost seemed like they took a step up when they got Hagelin. Hagelin's a very underrated skater. I think I would put him top 7. He's just very light on his skates, and he's quick, and he can handle the puck, and he really gave them depth. I mean, I think he might have been on their third line.
I believe so.
Very good third line player, and I think that really gave them the depth they needed after those 2 lines, which has been their problem the entire Malkin Crosby regime, is that they haven't been 4 full lines. It's been, all right, we can split up Malkin and Crosby and have 2 good lines, and then like Mike Rupp.
Yeah.
Or with Matt Cook, so it's just, but I think getting a guy like Hagelin, who is a very good player, put him on your third line, I think that helped them mightily.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm looking at it right now. I mean, you take into account, I mean, their defense. It was so young, and to be able to do what they did, to go all the way like that. Granted, Crosby and Malkin aren't going to play forever. I mean, but it's not like Crosby's 35; he's 28. Um, Malkin the same thing, 29, and you got guys like Ali Mata, 21 years old. Uh, Brian Dumoulin, 24 years old. Uh, let's see what else sticks out. Justin Schultz, 25. Derek Pouliot, 22. They have such a young defense that as a Rangers fan, and it probably worries you as a Pittsburgh fan too. I just called you a Pittsburgh fan. You're going to kill me. As a Philly fan, they're set up to have a good team for the next 20 years at this point, which sucks.
I mean, it does scare me a little, but then at the same time, you got to look at. I'm gonna really come at you now, but looking at the Rangers when they had a great young defense, they had Stahl, they had McDonough, they had Girardi, they had Delzato, and right now the only one that looks like they want to keep is McDonough. So I think you can look at it that way, like, wow, this defense is crazy, like young, and they can only get better. Or you can look at it the way I'm looking at it, whereas the offense is so good at puck possession. They're so young and quick that they basically keep the other team from getting the puck, which helps the defense more than people realize.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
And as also block shots, which was a big thing with the Rangers. I mean, when you have your forwards blocking shots and your defensemen blocking shots before they get to Lundqvist looks better. Which then the people, well, if Lundqvist is doing better, you got to look at the defense. But really, it's the block shots. A lot of those guys now aren't looking too hot for the Rangers, and I think that's what Pittsburgh can't fall in love with. Oh, we got good young defensemen. We can afford to lose something on offense. I think the reason defense was so good towards the end was because Pittsburgh's offense was able to keep possession of the puck. And keep the pressure on the opposing team. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you still have to score points. I mean, no question about that. But I mean, Crosby and Malkin are at the point they're not going anywhere. They're going to play in Pittsburgh the rest of their careers. So, this defense is going to have some good guys to play with on the offensive side. But it scares me between the young defensemen, and you got Matt Murray, who's 22, addition by subtraction there, because they're no longer going to play Fleury now because Murray won them a cup. Because we both know Fleury is just goddamn awful.
Especially with his contract.
Yeah, he's long gone. And especially, I mean, looking ahead to the offseason now, I mean, there may be a market for him. I mean, I said take that with a grain of salt. But, it looks as though, from what I've been reading, it looks as though Carey Price is ready to move on. His contract's up. So, teams maybe start looking to acquire a goalie, that you don't normally, the last one I could think of was 3 years ago with Ryan Miller on the open market. I mean, teams may see Price. If they don't get Price, Fleury may be the next option. So there might actually be a market for Marc-Andre Fleury, who we know what he is. He's, score points for him because he's going to give them back.
Yeah, I mean, he has been a really good regular season goalie, but when it comes to the playoffs, it seems like he takes a step back, other than when he came onto the scene in, I guess it was 2008 when they won it for the first time. 2008, 2009. It was Red Wings and Pittsburgh back-to-back years, and I think they might have won the first year.
Yeah.
So on the scene, and it seemed like this guy was going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and he was in the regular season. He couldn't really do anything in the postseason afterwards, and I think that was part of the reason they fell out most of the time. But yeah, I mean, goalies are like quarterbacks. Teams are going to want them. Calgary Flames were interested. They acquired Brian Elliott from the Blues. So I really don't know who's in the market for him, but someone will take a flyer on him, I'm
Yeah.
sure. And we will follow that throughout the summer because I believe the free agency frenzy starts this weekend, July, like the first week of July or something like that.
I believe so.
Yeah, they televise it, and it's one of my favorite things ever. Other sports have tried to duplicate it, but like they just can't. Like there's reporters like literally outside the houses of NHL players, and like you
Yeah.
can see the NHL player like in the window, and he's like this, like they're reporting. It's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that, and we will continue to talk about it. But right now, let's talk the other finals, the NBA finals. Last time we talked, it was Warriors are up 2-0, and we both said Golden State in 5, but we wouldn't be surprised if there was a sweep. Then Cleveland blows them out by 30, but then they're still down 3-1, and all of a sudden, Kyrie woke up. LeBron kept doing his thing, and they got one for the land. After 52 years, there's finally a championship. After forever, Cleveland Cavaliers finally win one. LeBron did what he said he was going to do. And I'm sure we have different opinions on this. So, but let's just talk about the finals at first. I thought it was a good finals. I don't know. I had one big problem with it. And it wasn't with the players or the teams. Like I thought there was the last game was good, but there was not really a close game till game 7. And the refereeing, like I've watched enough sports and played enough to understand like you're not going to make the right call every single time, but like just be consistent. Because there's like there were so many games where the first half it would be like 2 team fouls each, and they were just letting everything go. And I was like, that's fine, keep it that way. And they'd come out and they'd be in the bonus in the first 2 minutes of the third quarter, and then it would be vice versa. So they would have a bunch of team fouls in the first half and then let everything go in the second half. It's like just pick one for an entire game. Like if you're gonna call it light the entire game. So we know, because it's really frustrating when I would see a call like say LeBron would go to the bucket, he would get hacked, and it wouldn't get called in the first half. But then in the second half, Kyrie goes up for a layup and he barely gets touched, or it's all ball and they call it. Like either way, you weren't going to call it in the first half because you were letting more go. And I just couldn't put my finger on it. And I think that's the one thing about the finals, and then really about the NBA that bugs me.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. Definitely, the officiating could have been more consistent. Like you said, at points, you didn't know what to expect. 5 minutes ago, a call would get called, and then the next, 5 minutes later, Steph Curry or LeBron are getting knocked over, and they're not calling a thing. They definitely could have been a lot more consistent. That was a major issue. But on the flip side, I don't think, a couple more fouls could have necessarily stopped LeBron from back-to-back 40-point games.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. That was just for my viewing pleasure. I don't know if it bugged the players as much as it bugged me, but that bugs me in every sport. It's like when they're in the NFL, they're like, we're going to call head-to-head contact. I'm like, that's fine, but there's so many like each ref has this different opinion on what that is, and it's like we got to get it down pat. Like we got to learn what a catch is. We all got to have the same idea of it when you're reffing. It's all just inconsistency that really bugs me, but doesn't matter what I care about. One thing I want to talk about the finals is the MVP and how I think it should have been Kyrie.
Okay.
And I know it's funny because I tweeted about it, and I have enough followers where I saw a couple people after me tweet, "If you think Kyrie should be MVP, you're stupid." And I was like, "Well, you at least tag me." like, um, like the way I look at it is last year Warriors. Who was the most valuable player? Iguodala. Why? Because he shut down the best player in the world. Got it. That makes sense. He was the most valuable to the Warriors winning the championship.
Yeah.
This year, LeBron had not as good as finals as he did last year, but he was still the MVP. And I thought, if his finals weren't better and he won this time, why was that? Because the person that was most valuable to the Cavs winning this time was the guy who also put up 40 and hit the game-winning shot in Game 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm saying LeBron did bad. I'm just saying LeBron did LeBron things. But even when he did LeBron things last year, he couldn't win. He just needed that extra value, which is where Kyrie came in, which he should be the most valuable, was the difference maker.
Yeah. Yeah. I see where you're coming from. I mean, I thought it could have gone to either one once they won, especially because of that shot over Steph. Really, I mean, until that shot, I was like, okay, LeBron's winning MVP, you know. And then Kyrie goes and drains a three in Steph's face, and then takes a 3-point lead with 10 seconds left or something like that.
Yeah.
But the one thing you said that kind of threw me off was you think he had a better finals last year?
Well, statistically, he did.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, like overall, he did better because they won. But when you look at it statistically, last year he had a better finals.
Okay, I see where you're coming from now. I'm looking at it though, and I mean, heat of the moment, it's gonna go to LeBron. Down 3-1, back-to-back 40-point games, ends it with a triple-double in Game 7, and it's LeBron. He came home, he won the championship for the land, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand why they gave it to LeBron, but I'm in the same boat with you. Like I said, especially once he hit that shot. Once he hit that shot to seal it, I was like, he's right up there with LeBron now. Like he had a 40-point game in, was it Game 4, 5 or 6? I forget which one he had a 40-point game in. And then he hits that shot. I mean, that shot. It seemed like something, for me, it kind of felt like, I saw him hit that shot, and I go, I'm going to be seeing that in Gatorade commercials in 20 years. Like we see the shot that Jordan had against Utah, I believe it was, in a Game 6, Game 7, when he won a championship. I felt the same way with that shot. Like the magnitude of the championship, not only for LeBron's legacy or Kyrie winning, but for Cleveland and Kyrie. Yeah, I did. I could see, like I said, 20 years from now, a Gatorade commercial comes on and Kyrie pulling up over Steph is on there.
Yeah, I mean, Kyrie Steph, basically, because right before that, Steph goes down and he goes to drain that shot, and then Kyrie comes back and he drains that shot, and Steph didn't, Kyrie did, and already, I don't know if you watched the draft or when they showed the picture of the elite point guards in the NBA, Steph wasn't on there. So it's funny that everyone says you get Steph Curry, you think he's the greatest thing ever, he's just on a great team. Well, obviously ESPN was really quick to knock him down. So
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, I also noticed on that picture a certain Knicks point guard wasn't on there, but you know.
oh yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that. Oh man, I got a lot to say about that. But let's just finish up finals talk right now. And
Yeah, yeah.
one thing that I was interested in, and it's not really finals talk, it's just talk in general. Um, I am a Steph Curry fan. I am a LeBron fan, even though people. Now, here's the thing: I'm not like real big. Like, I'm not gonna go on Twitter and like protect LeBron. That's not what I do. I don't really protect players. Like the only players I really protect are like let's see, Jason Kelsey, John Dornbos, and his
Who can
magic
do
tricks.
magic? Yeah.
How great was that? Let's see, who else do I? Oh, Simone Gagne. Don't ever talk crap on Simone Gagne. Jim Tomey. So there's not like a lot of athletes that I protect aren't really mainstream anyway, so I don't really protect athletes out. But I am a fan of LeBron. I do like to hate on LeBron. I'm a fan of hating on LeBron because LeBron lovers are so crazy. But the one thing I'm not a fan of is the refs letting or giving the fouls to a two-time MVP. Like, this is the finals. I'm staying up late because even though I got to wake up at 7 for work, and you're gonna foul out a two-time MVP in the finals. I don't understand that. Like, come on, like Jordan never fouled out of a finals game. LeBron never fouled out of a finals game. Like, and some of the calls too, like three, that was a clean steal, shouldn't have been called. And usually close calls go to these superstars. And I know there's a lot of people saying Steph isn't a superstar, but he is a two-time MVP. So that's the one thing I got a problem with. Like, you can't be. I'm there to watch those players. You can't be letting them foul out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, I agree with you. And especially, I mean, I think you got to think no one, no one's there to see Sean Livingston play. You know, as mean as that sounds, you know, give the people who they want to see, and that's that. I mean, I think they were down by, let them go. Don't call that foul.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't. I was so surprised because I couldn't remember the last finals where the face. I'm not going to say star of the team because you can say whatever you want about the team, but the face of the team fouled out. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to go back, but I know it was never Kobe when the Lakers were there. Kobe never fouled out. D Wade never fouled out. LeBron never fouled out. Jordan definitely never fouled out. So, I mean, I was looking back. Tim Duncan, I'm sure didn't foul out, and it was easier for him to foul out because he was a big man.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I mean, like I was just kind of like, really, guys, like it was crunch time too. Like the Warriors could have made a comeback, and I was like, let's see it. Like I want a good game because I didn't know I was getting a really great game 7. Um, but yeah, it was that and the inconsistent calls. That's the things that irked me about the finals. But I think it ended well. Really good game 7, and even though none of the Cavaliers are wearing shirts, they're living it up, and so is Cleveland.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a huge turning point for me watching the series was when Bogut went down. I know he's not the greatest player on that team, um, but you saw it watching it. The second he went down, you know, LeBron kicked it into another gear. He was able to get to the bucket. He was, you know, because he didn't have to worry about someone at 7 foot protecting the rim. Um, yeah, uh, Bogut going down definitely enabled the comeback that we saw, and it was just awesome to see. I mean, this series. I mean, that game 7 and the performance by LeBron in game 5 and 6 um, really set the tone for me. I mean, you kind of, I am not the biggest fan of LeBron. Especially because I used to be a Celtics fan when they had the big three, and they always ran into LeBron and beat him. And then I, realized, like, why do I like Boston? I should like the Knicks. I'm a New York fan. And then he kind of shunned us and went to Miami. So I've never been the biggest LeBron fan, but I don't necessarily hate him. It's one of those things, for me at least, you see a player like that and, you kind of respect just how good he is. When he came back, I gained a lot of respect for him. But, I mean, kind of bitter towards him just a little. The fact that he can play like that the way he did when his back was against the wall and, doesn't do that night in and night out bothers me just a little. Because I'd love to see him run through an 82-game schedule. Granted, he probably can't do that, back-to-back days when they're back-to-back. But, break it out every so often. Like, I'd love to see that LeBron in the regular season just to see what would happen.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, when he turns it on and when he realizes, like, I got to take this game over, he's one of the best to watch, no doubt. You did say that Bogut was the turning point for you. I was tweeting Bogut for MVP since game one, and I think I tweeted it again before he got hurt in, I guess it was game 5. But yeah, big fan of Bogut, and it was crazy because you think, wow, Bogut is the worst player on the starting lineup for the Warriors, but like when he went down, there was no one else that could even come close to protecting the rim. Festus Ezeli, man, he is just bad. Like I think they gotta move on from him, and I'm sure they want to bring Bogut back, and I heard they were looking free agency for some centers, whether it be Whiteside or maybe Joakim Noah. One thing that you also said is that championship. For me, Philadelphia sports fan perspective, I'm going to say it's not great for Cleveland to win a championship because now when people go, who's the worst sports town? Not a fan of that.
So you're going Philly for worst sports city now that Cleveland has the title. You there, Tim?
Yep. Sorry, the connection's not that great.
Yeah, it's all good. So you're going Philadelphia now for worst sports city.
I was thinking about what are the options, and I figured you need at least 3 major sports to be qualified as that.
Okay.
So I figured you got Philadelphia, and then I figured you got Atlanta, because Atlanta's got all 4, right? They got the Falcons, they got the Braves, they have the Hawks, and they used to have so they have 3 of the 4. Hockey, you don't need to have hockey. So I was thinking Philadelphia, Atlanta. I was thinking Tampa Bay, but the Lightning have had success recently, so they would probably be not as close. And I mean, when you look at it, I think that's the 2 that you got to choose from. Because you think of some bad teams overall. I don't know if they're as bad as Philadelphia and Atlanta, especially with the championship wise. You can pick out teams, but like even just having success in any of the sports at this point, because like you can look at Houston with the Texans and the Astros. But I mean, even though they haven't won, the Astros won. Or no, yeah, the Astros won in the mid-2000s, but still they're having success currently. So you can say, oh, Texans never won a championship, but they're having success, whereas Eagles haven't either, and they are not having success. So I think you have to maybe I'm blanking on another place, but for right now I got to say it's either Philadelphia or Atlanta, and that's why I was really that was the main reason I was loving Golden State so much.
Yeah. So I have another city that you didn't mention.
Okay.
And I think they take the cake. I think they absolutely will hold the crown for worst sports city until the Browns remind us how bad Cleveland is overall in the football season. Um, San Diego.
Let's see. It's right. You got the Padres. You got
You got the Padres, who
Chargers.
historically are just bad, and they probably have the worst uniform of all time with the dirt and mustard unis that Winfield wore. Also, only MLB team without a no hitter, so add that to the pot. Um, you got the Chargers, who haven't won anything haven't won a Super Bowl. They have won AFL titles but haven't won a Super Bowl. And you add in, they've had an NBA team and have been so bad that they haven't been able to hold them there. But the Buffalo Braves came there, and then they went to San Diego, and now they're the Clippers. So it was so bad for basketball that they left.
That's true. I actually will keep them behind for my rankings, at least, Philadelphia and Atlanta, because even though they couldn't keep a basketball team, which is pretty bad, they still only have two teams, which I think kind of gives them a little. It catches them a break, even though that the losing is more predominant when you only have. But like when you have like 3 or 4 that are struggling, that's when it gets real bad.
Yeah, and I mean,
I was trying to think.
I'm willing to give Philadelphia a break.
Maybe Detroit. What was that?
I'm willing to give Philadelphia a break just because they've won a World Series in the last 10 years. San Diego hasn't won crap.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess you can give us a break. Like, I guess I have to. I mean, I have to because we're a sports town. I mean, Atlanta has the Hawks currently, and they haven't really won anything in baseball since the 90s.
Yeah.
So I guess it would have to be Atlanta if I was going to rank them. But I mean,
and the Sixers have at least gone to a title in the last 20 years. So
yeah, true.
I don't think Philly's as bad as you're making it out to be, Tim.
It's when you're here, it seems worse than it is, I guess. I never thought a New York guy would talk me off the ledge.
Yeah, and I mean, plus you got, I'll talk you up a bit. You got Franco, you got Ghost of Spear, now you got Simmons, Carson. So it's gonna be all right, Tim. You'll be fine.
Whoever's listening to this podcast may turn it off or think the world's ending because you're having a New York guy talk up a Philly guy, letting him know it's okay. I will not do the same for New York. Sorry.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's because you got them 2 Super Bowls, so I can't really. Yeah. You got enough.
And New York, just even though I can't stand the team, we kind of have a team with 27 world championships, so New York's gonna do just fine.
Oh man, you don't even like that team. Jesus.
I don't even like them, but the city has the titles, so.
Yeah, I guess it's true. And then you can add the one Mets title to it.
Two Mets titles.
Oh, so you don't even
3 after this year. 3 after this year. Jose Reyes is taking us all the way.
You don't even help him get the 30. That's how bad the Mets are. All right, well, we're switched to the NBA draft right now because maybe we're gonna head up for the looking up for the Sixers with their draft. That would be really good. I guess we'll just talk about some of the picks, some of our favorite picks, and then we'll talk about some trades that happened, and then we'll finish it up. So obviously, number 1 pick overall. There was no shock to it if you follow Adrian Wojnarowski or get the ESPN alerts or Team Stream. I think it came out Tuesday that the Sixers were officially drafting him. He came in for a workout, and I'm pretty sure he didn't really leave until the draft. It came out also that Embiid will be playing 5-on-5 scrimmages, which is awesome. That has nothing to do with the draft. But so Ben Simmons goes number 1 overall, and I love the pick. I'm really excited about Simmons' jump shot but I think that has to improve, and I think it will. He's an athletic kid. He bulked up. I think that the best player in the draft. I think the best player in the draft 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be with him. Maybe Wiggins is up there, but I can't think of anybody really else.
Yeah, I mean, Wiggins' hype was about the same, but Wiggins as a player, like but he just his body, he just seems so skinny still, and it's like either he needs a consistent outside game or he needs to bulk up to where without anyone causing him issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like the way I look at Simmons is kind of, I don't want to make this comparison, but I mean he can equal the body type of LeBron, whereas he doesn't need to be like a great shooter. He just needs to have a respectable jump shot game because shouldn't have a problem driving at his own will.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I think Simmons does definitely take the form a bit of a LeBron. Kind of that Magic Johnson mold. I think he's going to fall into. And talking on Wiggins, who I think, I kind of want to believe that Ingram, Simmons, and Wiggins, maybe you throw in Parker, have the potential to be kind of that LeBron, Wade, KD, Melo, that new crop of talent to really come in to the league and take it over and win some championships.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you there. One thing about this draft that, I mean, we all kind of knew coming in, and I think we'll learn in the next 5 years, is that you look at the first two players, you have Simmons and Ingram, and then after that it was kind of just like, you got two players and you got everyone else. And I think that really came out during the draft where it kind of was just whoever was drafted. Like there was I don't remember seeing a mock draft that was like 3% right. Like each mock draft had the first two right, but after that it was just thrown up in the air. And personally, I think that's just because of the weak draft. I think the Sixers had one of the best drafts, if not the best draft. I was real excited about that draft. But yeah, looking over the mock draft or the final draft, just really everyone was kind of thrown in wherever, and not a lot of right predictions.
Yeah, not at all. I didn't think Jamal Murray would fall to 7. I thought he'd be 5, 4, maybe even 3. I don't know about you. I think the Celtics. I like his potential long term, but I think the Celtics reached big time on Brown.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I think I would give the Celtics' entire draft a D. The only reason I'm not giving them an F is because they took Demetrius Jackson from Notre Dame, who I really like as a player. I'm surprised he fell that far. But, I mean, at that point, just happy you get drafted, I guess. I think the Jaylen Brown pick threw everyone off. Like you said, you thought Murray would go 5. I think that's because Dunn didn't go 3. Dunn fell to 5, bumping Murray down as well. And that kind of bumped down every other guard. I mean, I was surprised Wade Baldwin fell to 17. I mean, I was really surprised, guys, that the Sixers got Luwalu and Korkmaz fell to late 20s.
Yeah. Looking at it,
Surprised there. And the one using. You there? Our voices kind of got
Yeah,
mashed up.
yeah,
With the,
yeah. I'm here. I'm here.
yeah. So I mean, they were kind of got smushed together. I didn't mean to cut you off or talk over you. But I literally
Okay.
actually talked. It was like we were on radio again, where we kind of could talk over each other. But really, all I was saying is that one fall led to another, and the Celtics having a terrible draft and drafting international players really went to the fall of everyone.
Yeah, yeah, and I think granted, and they kept saying this on ESPN, and I felt like shutting off my TV because I didn't want to hear it for the eighth time. Um, but they kept saying how the Celtics have to take these international guys because they can't have them on the roster. They're taking them. They're going to stash them, and we'll see them in a couple of years. Um, but I mean, what makes it worse is you look at some of the people that were still on the board for when some of these picks were going down. I mean, the Celtics took Gershon Yabusele from France. Meanwhile, Wade Baldwin's still on the board. Malachi Richardson, who I think has a lot of upside, haven't seen him play at Cuse this year. Timothy Luau, who the Sixers took. Bryce Johnson, Scala Bissiere. Granted he had a bad year, his stock fell, but the people that were taken after some of these international picks is just absurd. If you think a guy can help your team, even if it's on the bench, from what I've been reading, their whole plan for this offseason is to cash in on some of the assets and get, a superstar. So why aren't you getting more people to develop and continue this trend and have a really good team? Why are you taking Ante Zizic instead of, a Bryce Johnson who can walk into the Garden today and, play? Scala Bissiere, Deonta Davis. Well, even though they took Davis, but Tyler Eulis, who I really like his game, even though he's really undersized. Just a lot of guys. Malcolm Brogdon, that he should have been a late first round pick. He ends up falling to the second round because of all the international guys. I did a mock draft for my brother just to kind of BS it, and I had him being kind of that guy that the Spurs pick up, and you don't think anything of it, and then in 2 years, Malcolm Brogdon's leading the league in something. I saw him being that type of guy, and he falls to the second round with Milwaukee because of all the international players that the Celtics took, and even going international players, like you said, the Sixers got Korkmaz and Luwalu. This was after they took Ante Zizic. From what the guy on ESPN said, he's not coming over for 2 or 3 years at the earliest.
Mm.
And they spent the 23rd pick on him. That's absurd.
Yeah,
granted, Minnesota did it with Ricky Rubio, but come on.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I obviously not a Celtics Sixers guy. And everyone easy over Danny Ainge is a genius. Look what he's done with this team. Blah blah blah. There's only one genius GM, and he is currently unemployed, and that's Sam Hinkie. So I got a problem with everyone loving Danny Ainge. It seemed like he almost panicked when he didn't trade the 3 pick.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of the offers that he had. I think the Sixers were going to give him way too much. I thought he should have made that deal. I know there was a couple other teams that wanted to trade up, but he was like, "Oh, I need a superstar, and unless I get a superstar, I'm taking the pick." And everyone was like, "Okay, take the pick." He did, and I don't think he picked well at all, either for the 3 pick or the entire draft. And now they're superstar lists. They have a spot open at, I guess, power forward / center, and they're going to have to go with whatever free agent they get. And that's not a game you want to play if you're a general manager, because if you look at what the Sixers offered them, they could have got their starting center. They could have got a shooter off the bench that could play 3 or the stretch 4, and then 2 late-round picks, which they could have drafted Luwalu and Korkmaz like the Sixers did, or they could have drafted 2 of their international players that they already were going to pick anyway, who, like Hernan Gomez, would have fell if the Celtics didn't take them. So, I mean, trade it for the best offer, and then, listen, you have Noel as your center, and then you still have an open power forward spot because Amir Johnson isn't a great starter, and he's getting paid $12 million a year. So I think you could have moved him to like Portland, because Portland has no salary cap for and just added on one of your picks because you had so many. And then you would have had, instead of $35 million in cap space, you would have had $47 million in cap space for power forward. So that's something I think they should have looked at, and that's why Danny Ainge is not a genius. Only Sam Hinkie is.
And Phil Jackson.
Not Phil Jackson. But we'll talk about the trades now, because we kind of really covered the draft overall being like two players that are looked to be stars in this league eventually. We're taking 1-2. Terrible draft by the Celtics. A lot of people slid.
Honestly, the only other 2 picks that I like at all in this draft, except for Wade Baldwin falling, I think he was a steal at 17 for Memphis, but I'm not counting him. Chris Dunn, Buddy Hield. I think you got a potential long-term, nice scoring option to go alongside Davis. I like Buddy Hield's game. I think he's going to pan out well. I don't think he's going to be an Ingram, but you never know. And Chris Dunn, I think now you're kind of starting to see it. You know how this Minnesota rebuild has gone along. You know, now have Chris Dunn. So now you got Chris Dunn, Levine, Wiggins. Get them a power forward, and then Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, they've done it right. They have a starting 5, a loaded starting 5 now. Yeah, but other than those 2 and the first 2 picks, there's none other that I really like. Maybe Denzel Valentine. I think the Bulls got a nice player. I think he's going to be another, kind of that Jimmy Butler, kind of that grinder. So they can have a backcourt of 2 Jimmy Butlers potentially. But I mean, other than that, I mean, there's not really. I mean, come on, Taurean Prince, who the first time I heard of him was his comment about how Yale out-rebounded Baylor. Some of these picks were just bad.
Yeah, there was 2 picks that I was really a fan of. One that we just talked about, which is both Sixers picks. I combined them in the 1 pick. I thought they were awesome picks. I had both in the top 15 on, because I don't really publish a big board, but I kind of make my own up. I had Luwalu top 10, and I had Korkmaz top 15. Big fans of both of them. I think Korkmaz has to fill out a little. He'll probably stay another year in Europe. I'm expecting Luwalu to come over. I'm real excited about him. And then another pick is Patrick McCall from UNLV, who the Warriors got. I actually had him rated going in the first round. I think he's a really good, underrated player. Big fan of him. Those were the 2 picks that I really liked. And then right now we'll talk some trades, and then I'm going to put this out for you now because I really didn't give you time to think about ahead of time. But before we leave, I want to see who are your favorite draft busts in all 4 major sports.
Okay.
So I was going to mention something earlier and I forgot. And I'm
favorite as in I like making fun of them, or
if either you liked them a lot when they were in college and you wanted them to succeed, or you think that like awesome guys, or if you love to make fun of them, whatever.
Okay. Okay.
Hockey will probably be a little hard. Baseball might be a little hard, but definitely NFL and NBA will probably be the easiest.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so I wanted to put that out there, and because I forgot to mention something, because I figured if I caught you off guard, it'd be hard to think about. So there's really two trades that we're going to talk about. Two of the biggest, I guess. I guess we'll start off talking about the Knicks and how they acquired Derrick Rose from the Chicago Bulls for it was Jerry Grant, Jose Calderon, and Robin Lopez.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely love this trade. I'm looking at it, and I think you got the commitment money wise is a lot, and I get that. But I don't care if he goes out and plays with a torn ACL. He's still going to be better than anything Jose Calderon was giving us, or Jerry and Grant for that matter. After last season, I didn't necessarily see him having a spot on the team. I thought it would be Tony Wroten and Langston Galloway splitting time. Obviously pick up Rose Wave Wroten. That's just a side note. But I love this trade. You got to take into account he's 7'3". I think Porzingis fits long term as a center. We still have $30 million in cap room. I don't rule out them signing a Joakim Noah because he's played with Derrick Rose, and I think he's going to, even if he gets hurt, you got him for nothing. You got him for nothing. He wanted to there, and in the back of my mind, I'm kind of holding it that 3 years ago. Is it 3 years ago now? Yeah, I think 3 years ago, he wanted to play with Melo. He was recruiting Melo to Chicago. So there was a reason why he wanted Melo to come to Chicago. And now I think we're going to get to see it in New York, which just makes me as happy as can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it needed to be done if you were the New York Knicks. You're sitting in the middle of nowhere with Carmelo and Porzingis, whatever he turns into. You're only shooting 40% or something like that, not even that great. But anyway, you got to look at what needed to be done. Obviously weren't going to win anything with Calderon as their starting point guard. Galloway has played well, so you might want to start him at the 2 because Afalo's a free agent. But you have enough cap space where you should look at, they're going to be looking at a center, like maybe a Noah, maybe they make a run at Whiteside. Maybe they try and bring in Dwight Howard, even though he may be a problem. But they got to look at these guys where if they can bring back what they were, then they'll be awesome. Like if they're able to bring in Dwight Howard, and Dwight Howard goes back to what Dwight Howard used to be, and Derrick Rose is able to stay healthy, you may have a contender. And I think that's what the Knicks are at this point without first-round picks, without really any upside on the roster. They're thinking, well, we gotta hope that we can get the best out of players that used to be great. Like that's kind of what, if you look at what the Mavericks did this year, they brought in Darren Williams as their starting point guard because they were like, listen, he's our best option, and if he can be anywhere close to what he used to be, we might be able to make some noise. Obviously, he wasn't, and then injuries didn't help them. But from the Knicks' point of view, when you're in limbo, you got to take some chances, and I think it was a much needed chance and a very good chance to take, especially when you give up really only a good rebounder.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing is that even if he doesn't pan out, they still got the cap relief of getting rid of Robin Lopez long term.
Yeah.
You got to take that into account. He was under contract for 3. This was going to be year 2 of going into year 2 of 4 of his contract that we signed him to last season. So if anything, we get out of a really just a stupid contract. I think, they panicked and signed Lopez when Greg Monroe went to Milwaukee, just to sign someone so New York didn't riot. And they get out of that really, I'm not going to say a bad contract because he was consistent. He played 82 games and he did what he's known to do, just rebound, and put the ball back in. But it was just a stupid contract. And you essentially you swap him and his long-term contract for Derrick Rose, which, like I said, it's $24 million. But like you said, there's the potential for him really to find his own. And I'm not going to say maybe find his 2011 form. I think that's behind him. But if he gets anywhere close to that, oh man, the Knicks are in business.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I think with the cap room they have, I mean, you look at some of the people they're going to make a run at. I expect the two main guys are going to be DeMar DeRozan and Dwight Howard. But I think realistically, you're probably only going to be able to get one of them because with the amount of years they have in the league, I think their max contracts can go up to $30 million. So, I mean, but at the same time, if you're able to get one of them, I think that still puts you in a very good position.
Yeah. And you got to take into account. I mean, I'm not a Knicks fan that's going to sit here and say that we're going to sign him, but you can't rule out the possibility of Kevin Durant. You got to just have hope. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm sure it will be tossed around come Wednesday when he officially becomes a free agent. I don't think they're going to sign him, but you talk about the potential of having a starting five of Rose, probably Galloway or Justin Holiday, who we picked up in the trade for Rose, KD, Melo, and Porzingis. I mean, you kind of weigh your options, but obviously they have a lot of bench needs, but maybe KD sees it. Maybe KD and some twisted fantasy sees Derrick Rose finding 2011 form and Melo finding like 05, 06 form. And them just taking the number one seed away from Cleveland if he's there.
The one reason I think that won't happen is because that means Carmelo or Durant have to play the four. And I don't think either of them will want to do that. But let's talk about another four who was traded. Serge Ibaka, longtime Oklahoma City Thunder player, which is kind of weird because he's only 26. He was to the Orlando Magic for Ersan Ilyasova, the number 11th pick, Sabonis. I'm not going to even try his first name, and guard Victor Oladipo. I think the Thunder robbed the Magic. I really do. Serge is on an expiring contract, and his inside numbers have went down, mainly because they needed more scoring. So they kind of forced him to go outside. Plus, Steven Adams plays better inside, which really was like, all right, Serge, we don't need you as much inside. But, I mean, able to get Oladipo, who next to Westbrook, maybe the best two defending guards in the league. And then you pick up Ilyasova, who I didn't think they were going to keep him. I thought they would let him go and try and go after maybe like a Pau Gasol. But at $8.4 million for 1 year, he can stretch the floor. He can play both power forward and center. I think it was worth keeping him. I mean, why not? Because you look at who's going to start power forward for you, and you thought, well, you could look at a free agent, and then you're like, well, what you're going to be able to get? Because you probably can only use your mid-level exception because you don't have much cap room. At that point, it's probably better to stick with Ersan and then eventually work in Sabonis.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they robbed the Magic. I mean, granted, were the Magic going to win with Victor Oladipo as the centerpiece of their team? Probably not. That's not going to help you draw in any free agent, that wants to win. So it's kind of weird. They have to kind of hit the reset button on their rebuild a bit. But I'm not counting out Serge finding his old form because playing next to Vucevic, who's, you know, kind of that Chris Bosh center, I want to say, Chris Bosh Miami, where he kind of just knocked down shots. He's got that mid-range outside game that, really benefits him. So I think Serge could be poised to have a bounce-back year. But, I mean, absolutely. I mean, and especially you got to take into account, you don't want to – I think the entire league saw it 5-6 years ago when LeBron bolted to Miami and Cleveland fell in the shitter. You have to kind of take those preventative measures and, build up that underbelly of your team in case you do lose your superstar to a, Golden State or San Antonio or the Knicks or the Lakers or whoever. And in case KD's suiting up elsewhere, I think they're prepared now. You got, Westbrook's going to take over the team. You now have Oladipo, who could be your secondary scorer, as opposed to Westbrook being the secondary scorer behind Durant. If they don't sign Durant, then maybe you talk about a Pau Gasol. Like you mentioned, Pau Gasol. Put him next to Steve Adams. Sign some sort of small forward just to play the position. It's not looking as bad for Oklahoma City now with Oladipo in tow. Because if KD comes back, you got a nice team going. And if he does come back, if he doesn't come back, then you're fully prepared to still compete in the West. And it's not like Oklahoma, San Antonio, and Golden State are going anywhere. You still got to, if you want to make it to the finals eventually, you still got to compete with them. And not saying that Victor Oladipo and not having Kevin Durant puts them over the hill to close out the Warriors when they have them down 3-1. But it helps them tread water a bit and not fall off the map the way Cleveland did when LeBron left.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it only helps. I mean, it needed to be done because the Thunder are very good. We're very good with Ibaka, but it just seemed like they weren't there yet. And I think it's because Ibaka was a good scorer outside, but he wasn't consistent. He really didn't know when to go outside, when to stay inside. So I think that the move will be good for both parties. But I do think the Thunder got the better end of the deal. The only way the Thunder could have gotten more or robbed Orlando more is if they were able to throw Canner's contract in on that. Then I would have been like, oh my God, Orlando just made the worst trade I've ever seen.
Yeah, big time.
So we'll finish up with the question I posed before we started talking.
Wait, hold on, Tim. 1 second.
Yeah.
There's two more trades, both to the same team, that I just want to mention because I think the team is ready to bounce back to the caliber that they were, 4 or 5 years ago. Indiana.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that trade.
Pull off 2 trades, get Jeff Teague for George Hill, essentially.
Yeah.
Which, upgrade, plain and simple. Mm-hmm. And then you still have Monte Ellis. You still have Paul George. Miles Turner looked like one of the steals of the draft, the way he played. And then they go into their 20th pick to Brooklyn for Thad Young, who I think is going to fit in nicely there in that almost that David West role that Paul George had 4 years ago when they were contending with Miami. So they made some upgrades. So
yeah, no, I totally forgot all about Indiana, and it's funny because I was texting Sean Fleazar about the trades because he is actually going to be working with the Indiana Pacers through grad school. They're actually sending him down to work with them. So he was all excited about all the trades that they had, and I mean they made upgrades on both positions. I think Paul George is easily the most underrated star in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they will try and add a center with Miles Turner. Turner is very good, but I think if you leave him out, because he's still young, there's a reason he wasn't the top pick in the draft. Um, there are some things that he still needs to work on, and I think if you get another big man, if you, I think you might have to invest more years in Noah. But if you're able to go maybe like 2 years on a center that can just get rebounds, and then bring in Turner for 15, 20 minutes a game where he can kind of hide his flaws and do what he does best until he fixes them, I think that would be deadly for Indiana. And I think right now, after Indiana made all those moves, I had them as the second best team in the East. I mean, I'm a huge fan of those moves. Obviously, Thad Young, huge fan of him because he was a Sixer. And I think Paul George is awesome. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that because I totally forgot, and they were just two great trades.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely, I was looking at it, and, this year you kind of had, Cleveland, a big drop off in Toronto, and then a drop off in everybody else. Um, and I think kind of close that gap between everybody else and Toronto a bit. I don't think anybody's hanging with Cleveland right now because I think they're the only team in the East that can contend with Golden State or San Antonio, or if KD returns to OKC. But you have, uh, Indiana has closed the gap. Um, if they acquire another, superstar, maybe a Dwight or a, Noah or some. Just I think that closes the gap for the Knicks a little bit. So it's going to be that race for the 2 seed. I think is going to be pretty interesting this year if everything goes the way I want to as a Knicks fan.
Yeah, no, I mean it'll be interesting to see. I think the main thing for Indiana is adding. Yeah, the main thing for Indiana is adding a bench. I think that's the main thing for them.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard a couple rumors with them. I've heard Lance Stevenson coming back. I've heard, Matt Barnes. Like the guys that you could see Indiana bringing in because they fit that like grinder like they had with Frank Vogel.
Yeah, and especially with the starting lineup they have now, when you look at Turner and Thad Young really being the grinders out there, I think you'd want to bring off a bench with more grinders than you do in your starting lineup.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So let's finish up, unless you got any more trades that I totally forgot about.
No.
Carrying the show. But favorite draft bust of all time. I don't know what you came up with in your mind so far, so I'm going to let you start off with whatever sport you want to, and then we'll just go back and forth.
Okay, so I am going to start with basketball. And if you were obviously in the studio with me, but for anybody watching this, if you listen to the show while we're at school, I think you know where I'm going. I loved him in college, and the fact that he's a bust in the NBA hurts me. Jimmer Fredette.
There it is. I know it.
Jimmer Fredette. You saw it. I was so happy when the Knicks got him, and he just proved why he's been like kicked out of the league 3 times. He's just awful.
Yeah, I was struggling with NBA because you got a Philadelphia fan favorite bust in Rodney Carney. Then you have one of my favorite busts of all time, one of the best looking busts of all time, Adam Morrison.
Yep.
Then you have the gentle giant bust in Greg Oden. Those are 3 of my favorites.
And you got Darko Milicic going ahead of Melo and Dwayne Wade.
But I would have to go Carney as my favorite bust. It's the reason I played NBA 2K13 so long and never updated rosters is because he was a free agent, and I would always sign him. He was my favorite NBA bust, and he had the high white socks. Oh, he was the best. All right, what sport you got next?
Okay. Let's see. Okay, for baseball, I am going to do not necessarily based on where they were drafted,
But like prospect wise, right?
but like prospect wise, like out of the top 100 at a certain point, whatever. And I think this one comes from the fact that, I'm a half hour from Scranton. I used to see him play 2 times a week when Scranton was home for a homestand. Jesus Montero. I thought he was going to be the next. I have autographs of him because I was like, I got to get this guy's autograph because he's going to be the next fucking Joe Mauer. I thought he was going to be right up there, and nope. I just have a bunch of Jesus Montero autographed balls in my closet now.
Is he still in the league?
I think he's either on the bench or in AAA for Toronto.
Oh man, that's phenomenal. It's funny because I have, let's see if I can, my TV right there. I have my game paused. I'm doing a franchise with the Orioles, and let's see if I can actually. Let's see. I'll pull up the box score. I'll go to the Baltimore Orioles. And I don't know if you can see this, Lewis, or anyone else can see this, but do you see who's catching for me?
Jesus Montero.
So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because he is currently he's platooning at catcher for me. He kills lefties in MLB 14 the show.
He hits bombs in 14 and 15. It's ridiculous.
He's 364 on the year, and he starts catching for me. So that's really funny that came up, and I didn't turn my game off. My favorite MLB bust, that's a tough one. It's easier to go the prospector route with the team you love. We got Don Brown. We have Gavin Floyd. We have a bunch. Favorite have to be, Oh, man, that's a tough one. I guess I'm gonna have to go with Don Brown. It was sad to watch, but just it was almost comical how bad it was. Yeah. He had the month stretch where he was actually a legit player, and then after that it was why did anyone ever think this guy was a prospect? Why did we always say never trade this guy? And why did we get no value from him? He was just, it was awful. He never filled out. You just stayed skinny.
That's the same way I feel with Fernando Martinez with the Mets.
Yeah.
When we traded for Santana in 2008, it was, there was the package set and there was, Philip Humber in it and whatever. No one that panned out. And it was, it was either Fernando Martinez, who was the top prospect, or Carlos Gomez, who was number 2 or 3. They were getting one of the two good outfielders the Mets had. And they decided to go Fernando Martinez, staying with the Mets, and get rid of Carlos Gomez, who panned out much better than Fernando Martinez.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. That's what the best thing about prospects are. It's especially when the Mets just have been successful after rebuild and the Phillies rebuilding currently, I try and tell everyone, guys, you got to watch overvaluing prospects because a lot of them don't pan out. Wrote an article about it. It was all right. But, I think it was 80% or 60% of prospects don't become anything. And I was like, this is just exciting.
Yeah. Think about Mike Olt, how big he was supposed to be, and he's just garbage.
Yeah, and now he's in the minors for the White Sox or something like that, or he might. Yeah, I don't know. All right, what do you got next?
Let's see. I don't know. I think hockey's going to be hard, so I'll go NFL. I really liked this guy in college, and I thought, I was pissed that the Giants still had Eli, and that I don't know if we had won the second championship or not by then. I think we were just about to. So I think we were maybe 2 or 3 years removed from beating the Patriots. I was like, we have Eli, we're not taking him. I just hope he goes somewhere where I can, cheer for him. Jake Locker.
Wow.
I thought Jake Locker, with his ability to just kind of scramble, I thought he was going to be the next big thing. I was so upset when he, had the concussions and, ended up, retiring early. And I was like, oh, come on, Jake Locker. he was one of my. I thought he was going to be up there with. He was the same class as Cam. I don't know. I don't think I had Twitter back then, but if I did, I probably would have tweeted something like, Tennessee just got a steal. Locker's going to be better than Newton. Like, that's how I felt about Jake Locker.
I mean, he was an exciting player coming out of Washington. Like, no one really knew anything about him. He made Washington relevant. But, yeah, I mean, I really liked him too. And if he could just – because it's one of those players where, like, he had the skill, but if he could stay healthy, it wasn't like he just sucked.
Yeah.
He showed flashes, but he just couldn't stay healthy. My favorite bust, and the reason I thought of this question, NFL, is a running back that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took. I forget the exact year. I think it was mid-2000s. Cadillac Williams.
Cadillac.
He is
the second you said Buccaneers, I knew exactly who you were going for.
He's literally the best nickname for any running back, Cadillac, which became his first name. The dude was like 6'2", 270. Like, he had no reason to be that big as a running back, but he was just a beast. I think he was drafted in the top 10. I was real excited. I thought he was going to be the next big thing because I love guys that can just run you over. But he didn't actually turn out to anything, and I don't know if he ever got over 1,000 career yards.
Yeah, I don't think he did. I know he had a good rookie year and then really fell off big time.
Yeah, I think he just, like, it's one of those things where, like, he showed up to camp, like, overweight, even though he was already overweight to begin with. So it was bad news for him. But yeah, he was the best. All right, now we have NHL, and if you can, for Lewis, you might be able to pick any Rangers defenseman.
Yeah. Trying to think. This is tough because, I mean, hockey's another one that you could be picked late and go to the AHL and panned out, but there's not really like a I'm going to take a different approach for this one, only because I don't know hockey prospects as well. And I'm going to go a free agent bust, if that's okay.
That's perfectly fine, man.
Okay. This is only my favorite because it hurt a rival team. And I hope Alec watches this because he'll probably text me and curse me out. Ilya Kovalchuk. What was that? 17 years? I think he's still under contract for like 12 more years or something like that.
Yeah, it's actually kind of bad.
He's that free agent signing was so bad. I mean, it completely for multiple teams too. Him leaving destroyed the Atlanta Thrashers. And then he goes and gets a 17-year contract with Jersey, and it's such a bad contract that they lose their Zach Parise. Come on.
It was terrible. It kind of set the franchise back, like, big time.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Oh, that was a good one. Even though he kind of cheated a little.
Just a little.
Just a tad. It's easier to go Flyers this route.
Simone Gagne.
Simone Gagne was the reason the Flyers were awesome all mid-2000s. I'm actually going towards a guy who's playing currently, and he's not officially a bust yet, but I think he's heading down this route, and I'm kind of just saying, like, hey, dude, you better pick it up if you want to make the team. Scott Lawton is on his way to being a draft bust. He was drafted 21st overall. He was supposed to be, like, the next big thing, like, because, I mean, it hurt him a little because Giroux was drafted 20th, and I think he was drafted a couple years before Lawton. And then all of a sudden, Giroux's phenomenal, and then Lawton was like, we were like, all right, Lawton, you got to be the next Giroux. He really hasn't been able to do anything. I've really struggled on the ice. I met him at the Trial of the Isle, which is like for Flyers prospects, and it was like his 10th or it's like 4th year there. I almost exaggerated big time. But yeah, he's got to step it up because right now, with all the young kids coming up for the Flyers, he may be the odd man out, and that's not somewhere you want to be. I could have also went with another Flyers player currently, Sam Gagner, but I figured Scott Lawton. If he listens to the podcast, you got to pick it up, Scott, or you're going to be the next NHL draft bust. All right, so that'll wrap us up for this week. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place. Probably not. I say that now, but probably we'll figure it out. We'll do it either Sunday or Monday. But yeah, draft bust. That was a good one. That actually worked out way better than I thought it was going to. But next week we'll have a lot of the free agency stuff and maybe some MLB talk about how the Mets can't stay healthy and all that fun stuff, and that the Phillies can't win. So that's just stuff to look forward to. But thanks for listening. This is Monday Night Lights.